Good afternoon. They've given me 25 minutes to do this. I'm going to take about 3. What a festival we've had here today of rich ideas and theories and philosophies and different points of view and epistemologies and truths. And I am a bit overwhelmed with the abundance of riches that I've experienced here today. But I wanted to say that in all the sessions I attended, in all the presenters I listened to, I could see Dr. Saeed's presence, his spirit, his theories emanating out into the universe. And no matter where people are situated in their lives today, whether it be teaching or policy making in various governments and ministries of foreign affairs or the State Department, or whether they're actually working as mediators, negotiating ceasefires and truces, working in refugee camps, his spirit is there. He is being infused into multiple arenas. And I feel that people are trying to embody his life work, in their fields and their disciplines. So it's been very beautiful to see. Dr. Saeed is an elegant man. He is a complicated man. And he has so many layers and so many levels of analysis. And he holds in creative tension multiple truths, and has taught us to have more nuanced thinking, more sophisticated thinking, to continuously deepen our thinking, and to hold in creative tension multiple truths. As Nathan Funk so eloquently and beautifully presented upstairs this morning, that we have intercultural complementarity, that we don't have to be in adversarial relationships. We don't have to be in antagonistic relationships. Dr. Saeed taught us that we can have reason and intuition. We can have East and West. We can have Islam and all the other world's religions together. As we saw in such periods of history like the Al-Andalusia period in history, we can celebrate each other. And instead of a clash of civilizations, we can have a dialogue of civilizations. So I just feel that there is your presence, your legacy, emanating out in many, many ripple effects in so many cultures now, in the thousands of students that have graduated under your tutelage and mentorship. And every culture has a little bit of your truth in it now, and has so much to teach us. And as I've traveled across the world, I've also come into contact with your proteges and your students, and it's really a beautiful mosaic that you've created, a beautiful tapestry. And we know that peace and nonviolence is the grand roadmap, human rights is the grand roadmap of where we want to go, and we know that conflict resolution are the fine skills to get there, to drive, and you have taught us all of those things. You've taught us the macro and the micro, and I've enjoyed all of my discussions with each of you today. What a gathering, what a compliment to your legacy. And I have coordinated my remarks a little bit with Lynn Kunkel from the Al-Hibri Foundation, who also taught here and is an eminent peacemaker in her own right. And she's going to continue the discussion about what we learned, what we witnessed from all the presenters here today, and this great conference. So thank you, Lynn.
Indeed, what a day, what a journey today actually was, and what a reunion it was. It was marvelous to see so many people that I have been on a journey with and an experience with for so long, people that have been invoked by Professor Saeed and loved by Professor Saeed and experienced life with Professor Saeed, coming together today to really celebrate his scholarship and his teaching. It was really a wonderful experience, and thank you for everybody who put this together. Sarah, Colin, amazing. been marvelous to hear from everyone who shared their memories and their insights and their influences with Professor Said. I actually was quite deeply moved to hear about a Saidian perspective being invoked on a range of different issues, from human rights to gender equality to U.S. foreign policy to development and reconstruction and deep spirituality. And it begs the question for me whether or not a time has come to work towards a meta-theory, a Saidian meta-theory, that encompasses really the peace-building vision and the understandings that we've learned from Professor Said. I think maybe that's a challenge for us to move to in the next step that really reflects the span of his scholarship and the impact he's made on so many different levels. It was something that occurred to me that I really wonder if the time has come. It was a powerful experience for me to hear Mina Sharifi Funk so beautifully capture the core peacemaking tenets of Professor Said, and it was a journey through the last 10 years of all these core things that we've learned about peace building and transformation theories and the imperative of dialogue, and how transformation is our business, that peace is never made and that it's always in the making. These are things I remember, unity and diversity, that come back in their full beauty and their full power, and it was nice to be remembered, or nice to remember this in this beautiful walkthrough. And in addition, taking these great insights and seeing how she's built in her own original, unique insights and wedded them together, truly in the way that a seed is planted and it grows and blossoms. And this is, I think, the point. And it was marvelous to see this. This felt like coming home today. And I think it would actually be marvelous if every single one of us had an opportunity to share some memory or some insight that they had from their experience with Professor Said, because I think that all of us here in this room have had our hearts moved and our minds stirred and our passions and spirit moved by Professor Said, and could share a story that I think each one of us could also relate to. And how marvelous it would be to see each one of us reflected in the other, true in keeping with what would honor and be a tribute to Professor Said. So in many ways, all of us here are a unique community in and of ourselves, and it's a pleasure to be here. Where are our poets from today? But we are. Thank you, trying to get a lay. I myself was also an unknown research candidate from nowhere who was welcomed with open arms by Professor Said. I came here to learn about Islamic approaches to peace building. And there were no other programs that I could find at the doctoral level that understood and recognized the value of understanding how societies overcome challenges and adversity, and how they find compassion in trauma and empathy in pain, and how they restore honor and preserve honor and give dignity to others who have harmed them. That was just not something anybody talked about in all of these great schools, but I could certainly find out about networks and fundamentalism and extremism and categories of, theological, political ideas. It was such a visionary program. This is where I wanted to be, to learn from an absolute visionary. But of course I learned much more than just the tools of peace building, the techniques of peace building and the case studies. All of this I learned. It was rather a rigorous program. But it was also that in his scholarship and his example, I learned not just about peace building, but how to be a peacemaker and what it took to be a peacemaker. He also fired up my moral imagination, inspired me with hope and courage, and helped navigate and manage the nafs, the ongoing process, and very powerfully stirred my heart by his teaching and by his example. And others, as others have mentioned, he never failed to see the beauty and the best in others at all times with an unfailing integrity. And as he taught us, that integrity comes from your heart and mind and the spirit being integrated. When they're integrated, you have integrity. And then you see the world with new eyes, and you see your relationships with others in a new context. And of course, the great gaps in what is said and not said. And a great peacemaker, of course, is aware of what isn't being said, and who isn't there, and who isn't represented, and who is misrepresented. And Professor Said always had that unique power of analysis and observation through, as he would say, having this integrity. But no reflection on the teachings of Professor Said is complete without a story of Professor Said's, and not about his Swedish good looks or but many of you might have heard the story, but it's a story that kept coming back to me as I thought about today and thought about really where this contribution and where this impact is. And it's a story of a man searching for his car keys under a lamppost. And he searches until finally someone comes up and says, well, were you looking for your car keys? Well, where did you drop them? And he said, well, I dropped them over there by my car. So he was asked, well, then why are you searching here under the lamppost? And he answers, well, this is where the light is. And this great man was always teaching us so many important truths at so many different levels all the time, and taught us how to know how to look elsewhere for the keys that we need to transform. For the solutions we were looking for weren't always under the lamppost, but that we needed to be integrated so we could shine our light and find the keys that we truly needed if we are looking to transform our world. And I have so many stories I could probably go on, I won't. But I do want to say that when we worked together in some very dark times after 9/11, I was his research and teaching assistant. And there were very difficult days, and there were very long days and challenging days. And I want to sort of testify that there was never an opportunity that he missed to speak to underlying commonality, to speak of the outcomes of what happens in societies when they are denied legitimate governments, how human rights has a role to play in forming and transforming conflicts, and that we need to understand the aspirations, the deeply rooted aspirations of individuals, and make sure that those are represented, and always look for new opportunities to create a new story of collaboration, of possibilities of partnership, to get rid of the old stories of clash and opposition. And he did this so relentlessly and so persistently, while remaining so dedicated to his students. I mean, to his classes, to his teaching, to his students, he always had time for his students, always took great care in every one of his classes for providing these great frameworks of understanding in the classroom, answering questions with utmost patience and care, and at the same time gently, carefully reminding students in these dark and scary times not to be seduced by fear, and that fear can be an addiction, and don't take fear as a lover, just so gently helping them understand these things, all at the same time. It was marvelous. It was steadfast leadership, and he bore so much responsibility, and he did so willingly and unfailingly, and I, in the meanwhile, keeping all of our spirits up, feeling despair and exhaustion. And I wondered how he did it. How do you keep bringing so much positivity and so much of positive peace-building energy? And he would tell me, connected. You've got to stay connected. The heart, the mind, the spirit. And I would see him take breaks and go sit in the sunshine on the bench under the great tree, the smile on his face, seeing him become connected. And when I had the fortune to go sit next to him and just talk a little about things, those were some of my most favorite memories. So his work continues in the tens of thousands of students whose lives he's touched. And what I hope in his tradition of being a visionary, founder of great ideas whose times are come, I hope in my lifetime to see an Abdulaziz Said Interfaith Institute of Peace, for the Center of Christianity and Religious Minorities in the Middle East. And the study of the science of spirituality and peace building. Any student of yours, Professor Saeed, knows about your great and abiding love for American University. And all of us have known how you've learned from the greats here, Pittman, Benjamin Potter.
Yes, like this. That's Pittman. Now, all the praise you are giving me, belongs to Pittman, Benjamin Potter. Pittman Benjamin Potter graduated at Harvard in 1951 as a lawyer. He read in the papers that the Italians had taken Ethiopia, and Haile Selassie needs someone to defend him, and he had no money. He went to defend him.
Wow.
Pittman Benjamin Potter.
Wow.
So you are really on sacred ground here.
I love how you always invoke those people who have influenced you. Oh, yes. Sam Sharp, Charles Lurch, Grady Tyson. I see all these people in here that you've mentioned throughout your courses and in our conversations, but you too are one of American University's greats. With your leadership, your vision, your passion for social justice, your peace building, you have helped to make AU sacred ground for all of us in showing us how to transform our lives and the lives of others and how to be connected. You're not just a professor, you are the professor. My distinguished friends and colleagues, I would like to invite to the podium a man who, and Dr. Robinson, if I may borrow from your beautiful poetry, a man who has been in our world a champion important, who has planted in God's garden of a world peace, who works tirelessly in purposeful silence, planting and tending seeds of lasting peace, a one dedicated man and an illustrious man of letters. Professor Saeed.
And it's great inspiration, this one.
Sure. Hi,
My inspiration to another inspiration.
I'm his lesser half. I'm Elena Turner. This is from William Blake. To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour.
Thank you. Thank you. My distinguished colleagues, Mohammed and Kareem Badoura. Where are you, Kareem? And Kareem Badoura. Thank you for bringing us together today. Your role in assembling the conference and your continuous contributions to advance peace studies are invaluable to all of us. Thank you. Sarah Schmidt, I thank you for your hard work and dedication to making this meeting a success. And finally, I would like to thank each of you delegates for gracing us with your presence today. We have heard a number of important presentations which advance our knowledge of peacemaking. Thank you, guys. there was a reference to fear earlier, and there was reference to love earlier. When my students ask me, what brings you here? I said, fear and love. Fear and love. As a child in Syria, under the French, in the 30s, late 30s, mid-late 30s, the Syrians rebelled against the French, one of the many rebellions. And our small town, Amuda, attacking the French, being attacked by the French bombing the, I was consumed with fear, age 6 or 7. But suddenly, love came the hand of my mother.
Wow.
Mothers, with their hands, took us to safety. It's the love of the mother. So fear and love stay with me. They stay with me. They stay with me. Peace is a process. Though some of us recognize the connection between inner and outer peace, few of us are already a Gandhi, a Mother Teresa, or Krishna, or Moses, or Buddha. Peace is a journey, not a destination. It's a journey. It's not an end goal, but inherently it is a process. This process involves endless transformation, a process of detachment and response. One, the transformation is endless. There is no instant transformation. There are no instant transformers. In the same way that our limitations are inexhaustible, our growth in peace is limitless. Each moment when we see and detach from a selfish thought impulse, we deepen our peace by one step. This is how peace is transformative. The process of detachment and response. Peace has to recreate itself moment by moment in our lives of constant change through detachment and response. This should be obvious with respect to the abrasions that punctuate everyday's life, as well as the obstacles that oppose conflict resolution. But it happens also in meditation. In meditation, Meditation starts by detaching the mind from the thoughts and memories of prior action, whether of the day, previous days, or days to come. Detachment is letting go. So let's talk about detachment and response. Both types of spiritual action, the practice in daily meditation of prolonged retreat, and practice in everyday life or conflict resolution take right effect that is rights, attention, and detachment. This sweating out of our transformation is the only way inner and outer peace can be put together. The challenge of daily life, once peace is touched as a temporary state, then maintaining that state requires the work of incorporating peace in daily routine. This is another process. It is sweaty work because daily life is a relentless stimulus to our latent weaknesses and a continuous challenge to our peaceful energy. The lives of saints, sages, and prophets were all so processes responding to small and large crises, one after another, day after day. My question to myself, why spiritual experience is required for outer peace? Spiritual consciousness refers to the direct knowledge we have of the world.
and ourselves before any thoughts arise in the mind, because all thoughts carry the sense of self. I am thinking about that. And because the sense of self is itself a thought, only spiritual consciousness can circumvent the root of conflict. Yeah. It can do this because it doesn't recognize a distinction between self and other. Without a sense of separation between self and other, only unity remains. If this perspective were to form the basis of peace solution, any number of specific approaches would be likely to occur. This is all it would take to see that social and spiritual peace depends on the experience of inner peace. If we understand what inner peace is, a quiet mind, but most of us don't. So let's sketch a formal argument for stillness of thought as a necessary condition of outer social peace. Stillness of thought and impulses occurs easily when we recognize them, when we are conscious of them. The problem is that we are not clearly conscious of the majority of our thoughts. Constant subconscious thinking means we are identifying with our thoughts. Identifying with our thoughts means we are investing a sense of self in them. Investing a sense of self in thoughts means we are creating a division between self and other. The division between self versus other is the germ of violence. Therefore, constant subconscious thinking is a germ of competition and war. Therefore, stillness of thought is a necessary condition for peace. The key concept here is the first. Why is investing a sense of self in our thought built into subconscious thinking? Because subconscious thinking means that we are not recognizing thoughts as impulses separate from consciousness. Clear recognition of thought as transitory impulses, no more a part of ourselves than an implement that we feel, means we recognize them as separate from who we are. When we don't clearly recognize our thoughts, impulses as transitory things, separate from the field of consciousness, which sees them come and go. When we feel identical with them, this is a subconscious sense of self invested in our thoughts. The metaphor of the mirror is a concept used by Sufis. And the message and the image of polishing the mirror, polishing the mirror of the heart is a common one. Sufis talk about polishing the mirror of the heart. With expanded, sharpened clarity, we are able to recognize our thoughts. That's why we have to polish the mirror of the heart. Because our thoughts appear to be part of our self-identity. Any individual or group who criticizes our beliefs is felt to be criticizing us. We take this personally. We feel threatened or angry because we don't see that our beliefs are just subtle objects within our field of consciousness. We are not who they are. But the other's criticism threatens to destroy our beliefs, so we feel the other is destroying us. In ordinary language, they are shooting us down in flames, blowing us out of the water. These are military metaphors for killing. And human beings do kill each other in wars over the ideas of Protestantism, Catholicism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, equality, democracy, and others. Religion, and we heard earlier, has never brought universal peace. This is true despite its role as, at different points throughout history, as a powerful force for peace and cultural harmony. Confucianism, for instance, helped end the warring states period of ancient China. Christianity helped reunify the decadent Roman Empire, both East and West factions. Rabbinic Judaism blazed up a force of peace in exilic Babylon. Islam unified the tribes of Arabia. Buddhism was the basis for instilling peace during Ashoka's empire in the 3rd century. These religious groups pacified and unified broken and belligerent societies, but successful states tended to demand allegiance to their finite forms and methods. Inevitably, this brought a return to conflict and war. Religion, as also we heard earlier, becomes a pawn in the political games of nation. For me, from my perspective, religion, which is ace, once used in politics, it becomes a pawn. Religion, when twisted and corrupted, leads to exclusivity. It becomes closed, driven by fear of differences. Closed religion preaches total ownership of truth, when in reality we all possess parts of the truth and need each other to discover truth totality. Truth is spread all over the place. The story of the key. But you have to look in many places to find it. When we start identifying with our beliefs, because we see them clearly as transitory objects, then we don't take criticism personally. We retain our peace. Peace as inner experience. As mentioned earlier, inner peace is stillness of thought, impulses. This is also clarity, the basis of wisdom, because thoughts distract consciousness from contact with reality. Reality is defined simply as our true nature, is simply defined as our true nature. Yeah. We were talking earlier about love. It's love. Yeah. As I was going to mention when we were talking, the word for love in Arabic is hub. Hub also means seed.
Right.
Seed. For a seed to grow and give life and birth, it has to bear it and die to give birth to another seed. So that's a very powerful metaphor, because when conscious energy is not used up to form thoughts, desires, interpretation, prejudices, resentments, and daydreaming, then awareness is undimmed if it's undimmed. All thoughts, impulses deem awareness of reality, just to make and maintain their own forms. Also, thought impulses prevent direct contact with reality. They are film or veil between consciousness and the world. Thoughts not based on direct contact with reality are delusive. Spiritual practices remove compulsive thoughts formation. Then awareness opens into deep, stable consciousness. Yeah. Am I reading this, overreading it? No, okay. Consciousness. Then awareness opens into deep, stable consciousness, transcending the false sense of self, born from thought, which is the source of disturbing emotions. Our illusory individuality disappears in God, unbounded wholeness. When the self is transcended, then the resulting energetic but still awareness in love our true nature. When there is no self, there can be no other. Expanded, deep, transcendental consciousness realizes that self and other are delusions created by thought. The insight that we are one is love. I'm repeating it again. We are connected, we are interdependent. The whole universe is one. In the accompanying joy of this love, conflict is recognized as coming from the emotional disturbances of the fourth sense of self. In contrast, actions from realization are loving actions that dissolve conflict and suffering. Cooperation replaces competition. This is not utopia. This is the life experience of people who realize that their true nature, They do not spend their lives in competition and conflict, but they often live intensely active lives. Gandhi, Abdul Ghaffar Khan, referred to earlier, their active ranging work and countless friendships and social contact carried peace. Their acts radiated compassion. That's why millions were open to them as they were to Rabia al-Adawiyya. Anyone knows who Rabia al-Adawiyya is? Tell them.
She's a Sufi woman. It's wonderful to have a woman who is Sufi, Muslim, and she is considered a great inspirer of love, unity with God, and unity amongst human beings. She believes in oneness, and that we're all connected and united. Did I?
You did?
Is that right?
Excellent. To Mansur al-Hallaj. Anyone knows who Mansur al-Hallaj is? Quickly, Peter.
He was a Sufi who was martyred for saying, I am the truth, which expressed his own, I suppose his own annihilation.
Exactly.
God was speaking, only God was present.
Yes.
And
Maimonides, who knows who he is? Maimonides. Yes, tell them. Yes, Jonathan.
A famous Jewish Arab philosopher, doctor, who came at some of the heights of Arab civilization and expressed great philosophical, humanitarian ideas that are still alive today.
Yeah. Thank you. Aung Suu Kyi, we know about her. Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Albert Einstein. I didn't want to include a person from each of the great tradition. But all humans who experience inner peace spread it to others. This is a possibility for all of us. Peace is the doorway to compassion and nonviolence. Is the first step to love. Yeah. It begins with ourselves. Let me share with you a framework for conflict resolution that I work with. The word in Arabic is Ana salam, minni salam, ilayya salam. Anyone would like to translate that? What's Ana salam, minni salam, ilayya salam?
I am peace, from me peace, to minni from me peace, and to me peace.
Peace, yeah. But says, when I am peace, I am a source of peace. When peace emanates from me, peace returns to me. Yeah, it has to begin with me. The translation of peace as first inner transformation and only then external manifestation occurs. So step number one, create peace for them, create for them, create for them a safe space for getting clear. meaning, as facilitator, I must create a safe space for the conflicting parties to meet. The issue here is that there is almost always a disparity in perceived power. It is difficult to feel safe when you feel powerless against the other. The energy, the environment, and setting are all important. Yeah. So one of the things I have done this step. We have to create a space for a safe space for getting there. When I am connected to that state of grace within myself, it manifests internally as a calming, non-judgmental energy. This clear space invites the parties in conflict to recognize that their unconscious baggage so that they can stop embracing their pain and start wrestling with it. Yeah, we embrace our pain, and in my work, that's what we embrace our pain. Yeah, we embrace it. For this first stage, coming from a place of self-heartedness and humility is essential. I cannot grapple with my emotions in the group if I am weighed down by my own years. Nelson Mandela, a great peacemaker, back in 1990, I think it was, when he came out of prison, a group of us went to meet with him. And he arrived late to the meeting. And we were all excited to meet him. And when he arrived late, he arrived with a young little girl, Margaret. He said, you know, she stopped me, Margaret. She said, are you Mandela? I said, yes. She said, my God, you look so old. Step 2, collapse the distance between them or making the unseen seen. The second step is to change the way the parties in conflict see themselves. When they enter they see each other as different or separate. What they need to see is that they are both victims and perpetrators, that both sides are traumatized. I appeal to the commonality that both sides are in a state of pain and both are healing. That's why when I meet in conflict resolution with Arabs, Israelis, Turks, Greeks, Irish, I say, dear Arabs and other Jews. They look. Dear Turks and other Greeks. After a while, they say, yeah. Mirror imaging, yeah, mirror imaging. Yeah. As for me, I cannot collapse the distance without first having experienced it. The founders of the Peace Studies program at American University experienced marginalization and scorn, who were viewed as flaky and were not taken seriously. But leadership is the ability, I have learned then, leadership is the ability to stand up in the midst of laughter. We paid the price, but in the process discovered a better prize, both humility and awareness of what separation feels and looks like. Yeah, I mean, look at that, I went through a time, I could not be elected dog catcher. You guys fake with that. What are they doing? Then we have here a gentleman who became dean. And it was during your leadership that this program became important. Thank you. That experience of marginalization coupled with my inner work collapsed my belief that there is, as I said, a center of curvature. Where you are, there is no center of curvature. Where you are is the center. where you are is the center. There is no center periphery, you are the center. Without this experience, I would not be able to help the parties in conflict to shift their perception. Another step, build trust or becoming companions on the journey. Build trust with them. Become companions on the journey. This stage is when the parties can share their feelings and create empathy. On the surface is only blame, and they cannot get past this blame until they see each other as fellow sufferers on a journey of pain rather than the other. They can only see each other this way by recognizing their own state of grace and their own unconscious. Thus, the second steps. It helps to focus on individual and shared needs and to identify the roles of individuals in conflict. Stage 3 often looks like the peace conference that Dr. Carl Rogers organized in Lust, Austria in 1988 probably, during our conflict with Nicaragua. And he invited many Latin American leaders, many American leaders, and persons, including myself, in conflict resolution to facilitate. And this was written about in some books. Dr. Rogers was 85 when he did that. Dr. Rogers was 85. And he tried and tried. He didn't think it would. He was trying to. The Austrian government, while we were there, during that period, they had the new season of wine. So they invited all of us in Lust, Austria, which is on the lake, the other side of Hungary, for the new wine. And we were drinking the new wine. The delegate from Nicaragua put his hand in his wallet and put the picture of his son. He looked at the American delegate. He said, "I'm not going to let you kill my son."
Oh, wow. Oh.
So, the American delegate, so happened, put his hand there, and this is my son. He said, "Why don't we, this coming vacation, exchange sons? Let your son spend vacation with us. Let my son spend vacation." And that is what did it. When we reduce ourselves from the abstract notion of national interest, self-interest, security, my son versus your son, it was, yeah. The discussion moved from the abstract to the concrete. Step number 4, create a coordinated pace. Create a coordinated pace. Tell you what about that. Peace resolution is a dance. It is a dance. It is really a dance. You can't go out of step. You can't push the other person.
Yeah.
She cannot push you. You have, this is where patience comes. The only way the negotiation will end is if one side walks out, but we don't want to do that. Yeah. So that's what I meant, a dance. And number 5, pass it on. The last stage of the transformation process is an ongoing one. The recipients of healing, once the process has been set in motion, become conduits of healing themselves. It becomes their duty to continue to work. That's how it works. Did I tell you the story, because I've been talking too much today, about my experience in Texas at Fort Bliss? Yeah. I was invited, that was years ago, before Christmas, to speak at the command sergeant Army Sergeant Command Staff College. It's a military, large military academy. They said, we will have an officer meet you at the airport. Right at the airport. It was crowded before Christmas. And as I emerged from the airplane, I saw a tall, big man, military uniform. I did this, it was him. Yeah. As I was approaching him, he disappeared. I kept looking for him. I saw him, he was helping an elderly lady. Her luggage had opened, and he was helping her put her luggage together. So I connected with him. Kept going a few steps, he disappears again. Trooper. I look at him, then I see him holding two children next to Santa Claus, while their mother is taking a picture. While their mother is taking a picture. As we left, I said, Ralph, tell me, where did you learn to disappear the way you disappeared? He said, in Vietnam. He said, Vietnam. He said, I was an officer, and we were on the front lines, and our job was to clear mines. I said, yes. He said, my boys, one after the other, every step they take, they are dead. He said, I developed a great strategy. I said, Thomas, he said, before I take the last step, to do it with love. So he said, every step I take now, I remember that. Every step. Thank you very much.